Oh, he's on fire now. His ass is on fire. That brute's booty is a burning. He thought he was hot shit, but now he's just about a cold fart. That means Foxy can't get me either.
Ah! Fuck! Fuck! Ah! No! God damn you, Freddy! Fuck!
Troubles at home. Home with the wife. Oh, yeah, I got it, yeah.
You saw my overskills and how smooth I was. I was over smooth with my overkill because I got overskills.
I believe I can fall. Break my ankles and my eggs because that's what they are now. What was that thing? Nothing makes a woman fall in love with you more than to walk into a room and go, okay, what do I do with this? Oh, fuck me! Stop trying to touch stop trying to touch Ares with your sword. You're free! You know what? Just stand there. That's fine. That's a good idea. Just stand there. What happened? Reach out and touch me, baby. What does that sound? Ah! Everybody put your hands in the air and say, holy shit! Welcome back to the Dragon's Lair. I am the one, the only, Crimson Dragon. So glad to have you here on this Sunday evening. I hope you all have had a great weekend. I'm missing you all. I know I haven't been streaming as much as I used to. Like I said, I've been busy doing things in my life. I'm getting closer to like locking down a schedule. I still have a few more test runs of like just some like test streams essentially on certain days, just to kind of test out the streams like functionality, stability, as well as like scheduling and stuff to see what the best days are for my my stream, not just like, you know, in general, but also like for like what viewership as well as like function. You know, long story short, I still have a few more test days to stream before I actually say this is my schedule. This is what it's going to be. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I will have that decision made by the end of next week. So hopefully by not this coming Friday, but next Friday. I guess it would be the first week of April. Yeah, the first full week of April. By that Friday, I think I will have my schedule locked down, and I will of course let you all know about that as soon as I can. Give me a second here. I'm going to tell my mods that I'm live. Where is... There we go. Okay, there we go. Now we're caught up. Okay, get back to watching my stream here. There we go. Okay. Let me say hello to Shannon, who is first in the chat. 10 dragon cookies to you. Enjoy them with your tacos that you're having right now. I know you're having tacos right now. So enjoy them. Before we actually get started in the game, into the game today, I did watch the Halo, the first episode, well, the only episode right now, of the Halo live action series that's on Paramount Plus. For those of you who may not be aware, Halo is a first-person shooter series. It's a series of games. It's been the first game came out during the original Xbox era, like pre-Xbox 360, the original Xbox era. So the Halo games have been around a while. So, excuse me. And just recently, in fact, I think it was last week, the first episode of the Halo live action series was finally released. Um, as a, I want to say, I'm gonna, okay. I watched the first episode, and I have to say that I have mixed feelings overall about this, about the what I saw from the first episode. And I'm not going to base the entire series on just one episode because I'm sure they can, they'll probably do things here and there that I'll certainly approve of. But I have many moments that I was super excited for, great references. Some moments that I thought, those are some interesting changes they made. And then there were at least two that I can think of, like right off the top of my head. I got my notes right here. Two moments that I was just like, no, I don't like what they did there. I don't like the changes. I don't like what they did there. So I know I'm not one to really critique that specifically about something, especially when it comes to TV or I call it TV because it's that's what it is essentially. Even though you're not always watching it on television, but that's what it is, the TV series. I'm not one to usually critique TV series because TV and movies is typically just not my forte as far as interests. I'm just not interested. Just doesn't really interest me. I'm not really one for wanting to watch TV that often. I mean, I've gone a long time without ever having a streaming service, and of any kind, like like Paramount or Netflix or anything like that, because I just didn't have really interest in taking the time to watch something. I'd rather be interactive and play something, or be working on my own game project, like my RPG Maker game and stuff like that. And it's just how it's just how I am. Um, okay, yeah, I did mute that. But with that said, I'm going to give my opinion on Halo, and I feel I do, like, despite what I said about not having interest or whatever in the TV in the TV genre, the TV that area of media is what I should be saying. I feel that I have a little bit of, I don't want to say clout or right. I have a little bit of vested interest, sort of, because one, it's a video game TV series. Two, it's one of my favorite games of all time, Halo. Love Halo. Love Halo. I played the entire series on stream recently. The only games that I have yet to play in the entire Halo series in general is Halo Wars 2, which I would like to do eventually, and a twin stick shooter. I think it was only on mobile. I think it was called Spartan Assault. I never messed with that, so I don't know anything. I don't know if it's canon or if it's just anything. I know very little about it other than it's a twin stick shooter from the Halo series. But other than that, I've played every Halo game that has come out, and I streamed. I streamed all of them in the Master Chief Collection. The only game I didn't show on stream was Halo Wars 1, but I played that for YouTube, way back in the day, back before I started doing any streaming. So, yeah, that's. I feel that my interest and knowledge in Halo gives me some perspective for one, but also I don't know what word I'm really trying to put on here. The I guess knowledge is the word I'm looking for. There's a certain word that I really want to, that really specifies what I'm talking about, but I can't grab a hold of that word to really explain what I mean. But I feel I have the, and I say this word loosely, so I'll just use this one. This one comes to mind. I feel I have the right to critique the Halo TV series because of my knowledge and experience in the Halo series and my interest in the Halo series, how much I love the game. So let me start by saying that on its own merits as a TV show, if I were to just set aside the fact that it's a TV show based on a video game that I truly love. I would say that Halo is a great TV show. Great action, great sci-fi thing, great sci-fi show. Aliens and awesome soldiers and Spartans doing their thing. Gotta love the little bit of violence that they do. You got the badass, which is Master Chief. On its own, setting aside the bias for the fact that it's a TV show of one of my favorite games. Halo is very good. If I were to introduce this show to somebody who maybe never knew about or never saw a single Halo game, I think they would truly enjoy it, even without having zero knowledge of Halo the game at all, whether the world or the aliens, the Covenant, whatever. I think it would be a very good. I think it's a very good show. That said, those that do know the game will love the references that they made. I probably missed a few references, but there was plenty of references in there that I certainly enjoy. I certainly enjoyed. I really, really did. Let me go to what I want to talk about on the topmost thing, the Master Chief. Excellent job by the costume designers of the show. They nailed his armor. It looks exactly like he does in the game, minus the 117 that you see on his armor. Typically, from what I can remember, the number is 117, which is a Spartan number, never appears on his armor in any of the games. I'm actually trying to think back on that, and I'm 95% certain that he never had 117 on his actual armor. Now, there's other media that have come out, like Forward Unto Dawn, which was a live-action mini-series that was a prequel to Halo 4, 4 or 5, 4, Halo 4. And he wore 117 on his armor there. But in the game, in any of the games, as far as I'm aware, he never had 117 printed on his armor. Even in the newer games where they had plenty of room and ability to put that type of decal on his armor. So you may not have wanted to put that number on his armor with the textures of like the original Halo, because they're older, a little less quality, and I'm not even sure they even called him 117 back then. He was just the Master Chief in the original Halo when it first came out. But yeah, so besides the 117 and the other numbers that are on the other Spartans, which makes sense that they do that, because it kind of helps you separate and differentiate the different Spartans, because unless you just get used to how they look, you don't see their faces because they're all wearing helmets, but you can recognize them by their number, which that's easy enough. But in the show, his armor is excellent. It is perfect. If you didn't know it was a live action TV show, you would think it was CGI'd out of the game or CGI'd from the game, because it is perfect. His face, his helmet, the faceplate, his visor, I should say, the grooves that are in it in specific places, perfectly done right on. His armor plates in certain spots, perfectly done, right on the mark. It is perfection. I cannot sing the praises of the costume designers for Master Chief's armor enough. Excellent job. Hey BMO, good to see you, my friend. How are you, BMO? Good show today at good job singing today at your church live stream. You did very well. You did very well. I like how you were leading the charge and doing the whole sort of like preaching thing. You're preaching yourself, and I want to say this. I don't know if this was like accurate, so this may have just been my own personal opinion, but I could tell that some of the things that you said when you were between songs, you're preaching, as I say loosely with air quotes, definitely has reflected what you've dealt with in your life over the past few, past few months, past few weeks. the changes that you've had to deal with. Getting out of that crap job that you were in and getting into this new job that you seem to be much happier at. What you were talking about today reflected that. I don't know if you did that on purpose or not, but if you didn't, good job. So back to the Halo thing. Master Chief's armor was excellent. When I first started watching the first episode, I thought, okay, here's how it's going to go. We're going to have an entire episode of them talking about the human characters that are going to be, besides the Master Chief, they're going to be in the show. They're going to develop these characters, get us to understand who they are and all that other stuff. There was going to be a lot of character development for the human characters that are going to be in this show outside of the Spartans. So I figured there was going to be a little bit of development on the Spartans as well. Maybe not so much on John, Master Chief, because he's Master Chief. You don't really need character development on him. You've had 6 games to get character development on him. And I figured there was going to be 50 minutes of character development, and the last 5 to 10 was going to be the first time we were going to see the Covenant. And I was really glad to see that it was the opposite. You see the first Covenant actually, not just their weapon or just a ship or something, which the ship was a really nice touch, but you see the first actual Covenant elite. I think it might have been less than 15 minutes into the episode, which was great. It was absolutely great. It was great that they didn't hold back and make them not appear until a teaser or the cliffhanger at the end of the first episode. That was very, very well done. Very, very well done. The Covenant ships that did appear was I saw a Phantom. In the first part of it I saw just a Phantom. That was the only ship they showed. And then a little bit later, after the Spartans showed up, you see a Banshee leave the settlement. And then later on, you see the temple ship of the Covenant, the High Charity. You see that giant floating jellyfish that is the High Charity, as well as some Corvette cruisers hanging around the High Charity. I also liked how you got to see one of the prophets. You saw the Prophet of Regret. Spoilers, by the way, if you haven't watched the first episode of Halo. Yeah, should have said that first, but oh well. I guess better late than whoops. But yeah, you see a prophet, the Prophet of Regret, which is one of the 3 prophets who lead the Covenant, the actual Covenant themselves. There was one character that was completely confusing. That's strictly just for the show. The Prophet of Regret was talking to a human. I was going to say woman, human girl, human female. She looks like she may be 16, but I don't know. But he was talking to a human, which that's interesting. So I really wonder where that's going to go. As far as the elites themselves, they had their armor looked like the elite armor from the later Halo games, like 4 and 5. They didn't quite have the sleek look to them that they did in Halos 1 through 3. I think the armors on the Covenant elites were much more sleek in the original trilogy. Or I don't want to say original trilogy, but the first 3 games. But they looked a little more, they looked less sleek than they do in 4 and 5. And that's the armor that I think they chose for the TV series. And I'm kind of sad about that because I like the sleek armor better. But it still looked accurate enough to represent the Covenant elites the way they do in the game. So it's very well done. They carried the elites carried plasma rifles. A standard plasma energy rifle, which we saw in every Halo game. The fast firing full auto plasma rifle, very well done. One elite, which is obviously the leader, was wearing a reddish armor. I don't think it was purple armor, which is a zealot elite. The zealots were I guess if you really want to put a comparison to it in game, the zealots were like the Master Chiefs, were like the Spartans of the elites. They had the best armor. highest shield capacity, extreme training, and most of the time I've seen um, zealots carrying energy swords. And this particular, while this particular elite was carrying an energy sword, I don't believe it was a zealot because his armor color wasn't quite right. Typically, zealots wear purple armor, like a dark purple. This particular elite, if I remember correctly, was wearing more of a dark red armor. It could have just been a lighting thing. It could have just been, the lighting of the area may have made the purple appear red to me, sort of. So it very well could have been a zealot, but another reason I don't think so is if they're following the lore of Halo. Zealots typically don't lead a squadron of other elites. Zealots are more loners, like they're more lone wolves types. They either operate alone or in small groups. They've even said so in Halo Reach when Noble Squad was talking to Dr. Halsey about the Zealots, and they said usually advanced teams are always small, nimble, and Zealot class. So typically, I think Zealots are their own. They're special forces. They're special forces, whereas the elites are the rank and file frontline troops. So that's why I don't think that particular elite was a zealot. But yeah, it was really nice to see the plasma weapons and energy sword used by the Covenant. Very well done. The action was great. I mean, the camera work was a little bit awkward at times, a little janky because there was a lot of cuts to where you saw like just a quick 2-second moment of combat between a human trying to shoot an elite, and then it pans to the or it cuts quickly to an elite shooting a plasma rifle, cuts back to the human being dead, and there was a lot of like quick cuts and stuff, which was a little bit janky, but it's kind of what you get in action movies, action shows like this, so it's forgivable. It's forgivable. It's meant to add to the hectic atmosphere, which is why they make so many cuts and it jumps around. It's not all one like steady shot or anything. So it makes sense. It makes sense. I don't say I approve of it, but it makes sense. It's fine. With that said about the elites, the elite attack, it was only elites, and I was kind of disappointed by that just a little. I mean, I was super stoked to see the elites in general. I think it was great, but I'm a little like, I would have liked to have seen jackals up on the. They jump up. They had like a wall surrounding the settlement. I would like to have seen some jackals like jump up onto the wall with what do they use? With carbines and beam rifles or whatever they want to use for that timeline, and sniping a few humans, and then maybe like an elite kicks open the door or like blasts off the door leading into the encampment, into the settlement, and there's just like this flood, no pun, flood of grunts just running all over the place. That would have been nice to see, just to kind of like add more hype to an already great scene for those who love Halo, and the references would have just been absolutely phenomenal. I'm not saying that the lack of grunts and jackals were a detriment or ruin the scene. No, far from it. I just think that it was already like, let's say it was like a 9.5. If they had the grunts and the jackals, 10. It would have been a perfect 10 scene right there. But I'm sure they'll show them eventually. I mean, why would they not? Well, they've already shown, like I said, elites and the prophet. One prophet, I'm sure they'll have the other two as well. Why would they not have grunts and hunters and jackals and maybe even skirmishers? And I bet I'm going to bet our hunter reveal is going to be a 1v1 against the Master Chief. Like there's going to be a hunter that's going to, or maybe two hunters since they always go in pairs. Is going to be like stomping around somewhere, destroying things, and Master Chief is going to be taking him on, doing some weird shit. Beating on him, shooting him, shoving a grenade between the the worms that are the hunters that make up the hunter like body. That's what I figure is going to happen. That's what I figure I'm going to see eventually. That's going to be the hunter reveal. Um, I was kind of surprised at how gory the episode actually was. There was really only like two scenes of like true gore. Not that I'm offended by it or anything or grossed out by it, not at all. I was just surprised to see it because gore in Halo really isn't a thing. Now, even though it's a first-person shooter and there's blood and there's explosions and stuff, there's really no like dismemberment or like gore, anything like that in Halo. The goriest thing that you really see in Halo is when you kill. Usually, it's like in the later games when you kill a flood, like a flood infested form. Like their bodies sometimes dismember or just like fall apart. You got like a dismembered infested arm floating around or rolling around or something like that. That's usually the extent of gore and dismemberment is just a flood. You can't dismember or completely blow apart an elite, or you never see a human really get completely blown apart or anything like that. So the fact that they had a human in the show get like incinerated. I mean, they got shot by a plasma rifle, and I think it like tore off like almost all their limbs in their head. Pretty much just a torso laying on the ground. I mean, it was a really quick scene, so I had to like back up and look at it. This is all what came to my mind when I watched the episode through just one time. I didn't really go back and do a lot of like critiquing after. I didn't do any frame by frame critiquing. I just saw these things. But yeah, that and then an elite got his head sniped off by by the sniper Spartan, and it wasn't just like dead body on the ground. His entire upper part of his head was gone. All you saw was like his lower jaw and in the fractured remains of his skull, which was again to me it was gory for Halo. Again, not offended by gore or bothered by it at all. Just surprised they would put it in Halo, where it's where it's not really as brutally gory. It was kind of surprising to me. Um, one really good reference that I absolutely adored. It was when it was short. It was like, yeah, good job there. Was the sound effects of Master Chief's armor. I like how with that add this to this conversation or to this part of it. But I like how occasionally they cut to a first person perspective of Master Chief. You saw the whole HUD and everything while he was shooting and throwing grenades and stuff. And it was nice to actually see the HUD on the screen, and it looked very much like it did in Halo 4, 5, and Infinite. It had very much that type of HUD design, which was again very nice touch, very well done. But in addition to that, you heard the fast-paced beeping sound of the shields on the Spartan armor getting low. When they're really low, your shields beep really fast, or when they are depleted, they beep really fast. And then when they are completely gone, you hear that low-pitched rapid beep, letting you know that your shields are completely gone. And then the recharge sound of the shields when they came back, taken straight out of the game, replicated perfectly. Excellent job there. I love that. I loved hearing those sounds. Very, 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 very well done. As far as that part of it goes, I was a little disappointed to see when the shield started coming back on Master Chief's armor. There wasn't like any visual confirmation. There wasn't any visual indication of that. You in the game, if your shields drop and your shields come back, you have this like little gold glow around you as your energy shields are restored. They didn't do that. There was no energy shield animation or anything, no aura or anything surrounding the Master Chief when his shields came back. So I was a little disappointed they didn't add that touch to it. But I'll forgive them considering they did such a perfect job with the sound effects. I did like how they made some reference to a not really well-known fact in the Halo lore, that before the Covenant became like known across the UNSC, across humanity, there were rebels that resisted the rule of the UNSC. And the Spartans' original intention was to put down these rebel groups. Well, they make reference to that in the show because apparently this settlement that is being attacked by the Covenant is a settlement that is resisting the UNSC, or at least has resistance members resisting rebels that are resisting the UNSC. And it's nice to see that they actually call out the fact that the Covenant, most rebels believe that the Covenant were actually just a UNSC propaganda, a UNSC myth, trying to scare the rebels into, I guess, coming back to the UNSC or to end their resistance or whatever. One of the rebels in that scene mentions, "I thought it was just UNSC propaganda, but they're actually real." You know, talking about the aliens, the Covenant. So it was a very nice touch there. They kind of dug deep for some of the Halo lore. So that was a very nice touch there for sure. One of the interesting choices, I guess that I want to say, is specifically about a change they did in the show. Not really like a bad thing. This was not a bad choice. It's just like, interesting choice to make. Interesting to make that change. That's all I really think. I just think it's an interesting change. And the first one that comes to mind is Dr. Halsey. She has an accent. Halsey originally was voiced by Jen Taylor, who is, I don't want to say normal because that sounds wrong, but has a, I guess, American sounding voice. You know, just a very normal, no accent sounding voice. And again, Jen Taylor did both Dr. Halsey and of course Cortana. And Dr. Halsey was had an accent in the show. Not terrible, not really not bad or anything at all. It was just a nice little interesting change that they did for that. And speaking of Dr. Halsey, more additionally, that's kind of stupid to say. Additionally, she was younger. The actress playing Dr. Halsey is younger than Halsey is in the games. At least appears to be. In the games, I think Halsey is like in her maybe 50s or 60s. She's very gray haired and you know kind of wrinkly. Whereas the actress playing Halsey in the show, while older than like the 20s, she doesn't have any gray hair. She's a lovely blonde, very attractive looking lady. But she's certainly younger. She's certainly not in her 50s, 60s. Absolutely not. Now, when I say that, I start thinking about the timeline of Halo. The events of Halo 1 are happening right after Reach is destroyed or is glassed by the Covenant. And that happens. Let me say it like this: the TV show happens prior to that, because when they cut to Dr. Halsey, she's on Reach, which we know Dr. Halsey is on Reach in Halo Reach, so they've got that part down as well. But we see Dr. Halsey on Reach, and Reach is not destroyed. Reach is still a inhabited planet. So this TV show at this point is pre-Halo Combat Evolved, pre-Halo Reach. I don't think it is pre-Halo Wars, because Halo Wars it is 20 years earlier, 20 years before Halo CE. So I don't think the show is earlier than that. I'm going to bet it's probably right before Halo Reach. That's my guess. I'm betting the TV show falls in. I'm going to just go out on a limb here and bet that Reach's destruction could be possibly a season-ending cliffhanger, or a late season cliffhanger, late season episode cliffhanger. But regardless of that, the time the time that we're looking at here couldn't precede Halo 1 by that much that Dr. Halsey would be actually younger. She wouldn't be in her, 30s, 40s. Because the timeline of the Halo series is not that extensive. Halo 1 to Halo 5, I think, only spans about 7 years, I think. Because, if I remember correctly, Halo 1, or let's say like this, Halo 2 falls in like just a few months after the end of Halo 1. Halo 3 follows up right after Halo 2. I mean, it's a direct sequel. I mean, you end Halo 2 and jump right into Halo 3. There's no time jump there. Halo 4, I think they said, is 4 years later, almost 5 years later, I think. Cortana mentions it when she first wakes up Master Chief. And then I believe Halo 5 is not long after that either. So yeah, I don't know for sure, but I don't think it's another like 4 or 5 year jump between Halo 4 and 5. I think it's just a few months, maybe just a year. Hey Victor, welcome into the show. Good to see you. We're talking about the new Halo TV show that came out on Paramount Plus last week. I'm kind of critiquing the episode because I feel I've got the knowledge to do so because I love Halo so much. So yeah, it was kind of odd to see Dr. Halsey being as young as she is. I love the fact that we saw both Miranda and Jacob Keyes. For those who are not familiar with the Halo lore, in Halo 1, Jacob Keyes was the captain of the Pillar of Autumn, which was the ship that discovered the first Halo ring. And spoilers if you haven't played the first game, that was like, it's like 20 years old now. Jacob Keyes dies in Halo 1. He's consumed by the flood. He's infested by the flood, and Master Chief has to kill him in order to get the access chip in order to power up the engines on the Pillar of Autumn. So Jacob Keyes dies, and we meet his daughter Miranda Keyes in Halo 2, and she goes on and she dies in Halo 3. What I liked about that is, first of all, the reference was obviously great. What I also liked was the fact that we got to see them interact with each other. Jacob and Miranda actually got to speak to each other, which we never saw happen, obviously, in the games because we met them both separately. We never got to see them interact with each other. The closest we got to that was the really, really creepy. What was it called? Terminal that you see in Halo CE, where you see the infestation process of Jacob Keyes, when he goes from being human to being infested. He's trying to keep his mind under control, trying to keep himself and trying to hold on to his identity while the flood is infesting his mind. And he talks about Miranda, and I don't remember if he mentions his wife or not. Or mentions, I don't think he ever mentions who Miranda Keyes' mother is. And the reason I bring that up is because I didn't know that Miranda Keyes was the daughter of Jacob Keyes and Dr. Halsey. I didn't know. I never ever knew that. I never ever knew that. And Keyes never mentions it in that terminal where he's trying to hold on to his memory, because if he had, I would have remembered that when I saw that Miranda Keyes was Halsey's daughter too. The series is an alternate to the games before the Fall of Reach. Okay, yeah, I mean I knew it was before the Fall of Reach because they flash to Dr. Halsey, who is on Reach, and Reach is quite unglassed. So yeah, I don't know how far ahead of Reach it is. I just said this like a minute ago that I think I would bet that the fall of Reach, the actual collapse of Reach, is probably going to be if not a season-ending cliffhanger, but probably like a late season episode cliffhanger. Just my guess there. The Fall of Reach is going to be significant. But you saying it's like an alternate timeline kind of thing? Sort of like the Kelvin timeline of Star Trek kind of thing? Because, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, all right, I look forward to it. I would still like to see the main game story be still kind of, heavily implied and seen, if nothing else. What I thought was interesting about Miranda and Jacob Keyes is the fact that they're both black. In the game, they're both white. It was a really interesting change. I was like, huh, nice. That was actually kind of cool. I actually liked that. It was really interesting. I already mentioned the Master Chief's HUD in first person. I was kind of sad the Master Chief's HUD didn't have the motion tracker, or it had the motion tracker, but I guess it was jammed or inoperative for some reason. I was kind of sad about that because it would have been nice to see him walking toward the whatever that artifact was, and like the elite that was watching him trigger his motion tracker, and then suddenly turns around. Well, that would have been a really cool touch, but they didn't do that. Before I get to those, okay, so those are what I've been talking about so far. The good things, my thoughts of like interesting changes. So far, all pretty good. Before I get to the things that I disliked, I want to say that I think they tried to slip a Mass Effect reference by me. Those of you who are somewhat unfamiliar with the story, unfamiliar with Mass Effect is a sci-fi RPG made by BioWare, which obviously is not Bungie, I'm aware. Bungie or 343. Mass Effect is an action RPG made by BioWare. And Commander Shepard is the main protagonist of Mass Effect. Well, there was a line said, like, it's supposed to be like an ambient comment by the PA that mentions a Commander Shepard. Granted, the Shepard in the subtitles, which I did have on, was spelled differently than Commander Shepard's name is in Mass Effect. But if it was meant to be a reference, I caught that one. You caught that one too, Victor? Okay, yeah, I thought so too. I was like, how interesting that they use, of all the names and ranks they could have used, they could have had Captain Shepard. They could have had Commander Bob. They could have put any pair together, but they chose Commander Shepard. That's not an accident. Because you're telling me that a big sci-fi TV show based on a big sci-fi video game didn't reference another major sci-fi story? If that is a coincidence, that is one hell of a coincidence. Somebody needs to go buy a lottery ticket. The Elite was a stealther, so he wouldn't have triggered the motion sensor until he moved. Oh, was he? Oh, you're right. He was. He was the one that jumped in the Banshee. That's right. I remember that. Yeah, because he knocked over the little girl. Amazing she didn't get her back broken when that big ass Elite ran her over. Because that's a big fucking guy. Those Elites are fucking massive. I forgot how tall they were. Yeah, there's that. Okay, now let me get to the things that I didn't like about Halo. My first and biggest complaint. No, it's not my biggest complaint. My first complaint is the fact that Steve Downes does not voice the Master Chief. I'm sorry. Master Chief was very well done visually. His armor was great. The fact he's being a badass already in this episode, in the show, is excellent. But it's not quite him because Steve Downes does not voice him. The voice of Master Chief done by Steve Downes is just too iconic to give it to anybody else. So I am very, very disappointed that they didn't have Steve Downes voice the Master Chief. Now I do get why they didn't, and I will get to that in a second. It is another one of my complaints, but I will get to that in just a second. But yeah, I think that the voice would have been better because it's iconic. It's just like if the Arbiter shouldn't show up. We shouldn't see the Arbiter as we know him from Halo 2 and beyond, because that Elite would not be the Arbiter in this point of the story. He doesn't become the Arbiter until after Master Chief destroys Installation 05. The first Halo, or 04. The first Haloing. Because obviously he loses his commendation as shipmaster, and he's exiled, or not exiled, but he's punished, and his punishment is to become the Arbiter. So, we're not going to see that Arbiter, I know. But it would be like, it would be seeing the Arbiter and not be voiced, the same Arbiter that we know, and it not be voiced by Keith David. If they actually do bring that Arbiter, or at least the Shipmaster version of him, I'm forgetting the actual Elite's name. They mention it in Halo Infinite. But if they actually do bring that particular Elite, into the show, they have to have Keith David voice him. They have to. They would be ruining the character if they didn't. They already, to me, sort of ruin Master Chief because they don't have Steve Downes voicing him. And this leads into the reason why I kind of understand why they didn't have Steve Downes. Because, and I hate this, but Master Chief, John, removes his helmet. I hate that. I absolutely despise that choice by the producers. The whole mystique behind the Master Chief is the fact that you never, ever see his face. Now, take aside the short time you see him as a child in Halo 4, when Dr. Halsey is talking to whoever that guy was, and brought up the fact that, or talking about the Spartan program was kidnapping children and all that stuff, and we see John as a child. Take that aside, we never see adult John. We never see his face in any of the games. His helmet is removed a few times, but his actual head is always off screen. The fact that he removes his helmet and you see his face in the show really, really puts me off. I absolutely despise that choice by the producers to remove his helmet. It's just not right. It just completely kills, and the fact that the rest of the episode he doesn't wear his helmet at all, it just really kills the mystique, the mystery behind the Master Chief. It in a way, it humanizes him too much for me. In that armor with his helmet, he is a badass, augmented superhuman, sort of. But you take that helmet off, you humanize him, and I just didn't like that. I really, really didn't. And because he removes his helmet, they couldn't use Steve Downes' voice for that part. Till the end of the season, I don't think he should have ever done it at all. I really think it should never have come off at all, because it's too much of an iconic part of the character. Kind of like what I mentioned with Steve Downes' voice. It's just too iconic to change it, and it's too iconic for him to take his helmet off. I really think that was a really bad choice by the producers. Now, I'm aware that whenever I see somebody complaining about either a game or a show that I've watched, I know I have a tendency to tell them, okay, so how did you make your Halo show? Oh, right, you didn't make one. I am very self-aware that I am putting myself in that spot. That anybody could ask me that particular question, and I would be just as guilty, because I never made a Halo TV series myself. I'm very aware. I am quite self-aware that I am picking on something that I have no control over. And I should just enjoy it. But those particular things, the voice and the helmet removal, are two things that I really, really despise about the show. Otherwise, it's great. It's great. Not just the fact that it's a fun show to watch. In general, again, specifically, even if you never played or saw or knew anything about the Halo games, if you would have watched the show, you should enjoy it. It'd be a great sci-fi TV show. The Halo references just put a little more of a dash of on it. It's great. It really, really is. So I really wanted to talk about that for my little, I guess my quote-unquote podcast of this part. Yeah, the Cortana thing. I'm glad you brought that up, Richter. The Cortana thing was certainly weird. I think what they did there is that whoever that bitchy admiral is, kind of reminds me of Admiral Nechayev from Star Trek, but that's a different story. That bitchy admiral, or whatever the hell she was, she was telling Halsey to end that program. In the program of Cortana, and I'm thinking that what they're going to do is Halsey was creating an artificial clone of herself, and realized after the admiral really disapproved of it. I think she's going to create the AI that we know of, the AI hologram, or the AI with the hologram of the Cortana that we know. The blue hair, blue skin girl that we know. I think what we saw there of that clone was just a preamble, I guess you could say a beta version of what is eventually going to be the program that is the Cortana AI. And we're going to see the blue hologram of Cortana. That's what I think. That's what I believe. Because I'm with you. If they actually make Cortana humanoid, or like an android that appears normally human with normal human skin and stuff, it's basically going to be a female Data, and that's not cool. That's not what Cortana was. Cortana was an AI chip that goes in the back of Master Chief's helmet, and I'm going to bet you that the voice of the Cortana is not going to be Jen Taylor. It's going to be the actress that's playing her in the live action show, which means Cortana is also going to have an accent. Which I don't have a problem with that. Again, her accent is actually quite nice. It's just a change that I didn't expect because Cortana doesn't have an accent of any kind. That's okay. In the games, you're right about that, Victor. In the games, you're right. As far as we're aware, in the games, Cortana didn't actually meet Master Chief until Halo 1. However, the book, The Fall of Reach, which I believe is canon, Cortana was put into Master Chief's helmet long ago. Now, I know you're probably thinking, you're thinking I'm talking about Halo Reach, when Dr. Halsey gives Cortana's chip to Noble 6. That's not when Cortana was created. I don't believe so. I believe Cortana was created before that, and Halsey uses Cortana's matrix to absorb all the knowledge that she found in that artifact below the ice shelf in Edpause on Reach, below Sword Base. So I don't think that Halsey created Cortana there. I think Cortana was created before that and just used her matrix because she knew she could handle it in Reach. Because during some kind of training exercise, Cortana talks to Master Chief in one of the books in the Fall of Reach. Because I remember reading about that. And I'm pretty sure that book is canon.